clients are hiring people locally. It used to be that you had to be within, walking distance of an E6 lab so you could get your film processed. Even being in Brooklyn would have been a nightmare. And now you can pretty much be any place. I mean, people are working. I have a photographer friend who just moved to Portland, another one who just moved to Asheville. They don't have to be in Manhattan. They don't have to be in LA. So I think the business is changing in a huge way. When I was shooting for Life magazine, my assignments were like a couple of days. I didn't go to Africa for 6 months. I didn't go someplace for a week or two to do something. I kind of had an hour with somebody or a couple of days to shoot a couple of different things. But I didn't miss the 6 months in Africa. I never had those assignments. They weren't part of my career. That was another generation, and no doubt they thought the business was dying, right? Because for them it was. For me, it was fine. And I think it's changing for sure. But I think kind of you need to be nimble. But I also think the new photographers coming up, for them it's all still really exciting, and it should be. And I think there's countless great pictures to still be made. The fact that photographers are available all over the place changes the whole game, for better and for worse. I mean, there was the era where people would send clients, corporate clients, advertising clients would send one photographer all over the world to have a consistent look to something they were doing, an ad campaign or an annual report. That's probably still happening, but a lot less. And I think the bad news is for the poor guy that was traveling all around the world and can't do it anymore, that's a little bit sad. But for the guy who's based in Singapore or Dusseldorf or Sri Lanka or someplace, or Milwaukee, all of a sudden they're getting calls they wouldn't have gotten before because the internet puts them right in front of the art directors and right in front of the designers. So all of a sudden they're very accessible. They're just a click away. People can see their portfolios, they can communicate with them immediately. So I think that in a way it's sort of made the whole thing more egalitarian. Talk about leveling the playing field. It's like flat as a pancake now because everybody has a shot at the ring, I think, I hate to say this, but I was never a big career planner. I think the thing to do is worry about your next picture. I think if you worry about your next picture, your career kind of takes care of itself. That may not be the case. It kind of worked for me. And I just feel like put all your efforts into the very next image that you're doing. You know what I mean? I think it's good to have a long-range plan. I personally have no idea what that would be like, but I think it would be a good idea to have a long-range plan. I just feel like life takes you in so many different directions, and your photography career takes you in different directions, and it's sort of like, even if you have that long-range plan, you have to be willing to hang left if all of a sudden something looks good over there. So I feel like if people can just, especially new photographers, they just worry about the next picture and make sure it's amazing and make sure they're thrilled doing it, and if they're excited about doing it, it'll show. And I think that's the most important thing, I really do. I think there's no way to anticipate now what the business is going to be like in 5 years or 10 years. Things are changing so fast, and I think if your pictures are terrific, people will get it. And also if people like working with you, they'll hire you. You know what I mean? The first thing they see is your images, and so that has to stop them, because most people don't realize this, most photographers, but most people who are hiring, they're already working with photographers they like. They might be friends, could be people they've worked with for years, people they go drinking with, it could be anything. So in order to hire a new photographer, the work has to be so compelling that it overrides all of that. And again, photographers don't realize this, but for an art director or someone to hire a new photographer, even if your pictures redefine photography in a way that no one's ever seen before, you could be a jerk. You could show up late. You could mess up the budget. It could be that the only good pictures you've ever taken are the ones on your website and everything else stinks. It could be that you only shoot those pictures when you're in a good mood. You know what I mean? It could be that you're not, anything could happen. So they're taking this huge chance whenever they hire a new person, and half the time when they do it is because somebody they wanted wasn't available. So I just feel like what you really want to do is stop people with your images so that they're willing to overcome all those different kinds of barriers and doubts to work with you. And then once they work with you, you have to be really nice to them. I think Matthew Jordan Smith had said, they're not just hiring a photographer, they're hiring a person, right? So that's what changes it from being a job into being a client. Someone who works with you again and again and again, and that's beautiful because then you don't have to sort of reestablish that trust fresh every single time. Already there's a level of comfort and trust and people like working with you. And if you can make that happen, then that's the best it can be. I think people get into photography for a million reasons. Some people want it because they think they'll get rich. Some people do it because they want to travel. Some people do it because they want a ringside seat at world events. Some people do it because they think they'll be famous and become celebrities. Some people do it because they want to meet girls. Some people do it because they want to meet boys. You know, there's like a million reasons to become a photographer. The biggest thing that can happen as a disappointment is that if you have those kinds of expectations, photography can let you down. If your only expectation is the satisfaction of making the picture, it will never let you down. Because every time you make a picture, you're getting that juice from it. Do you know what I mean? That's independent of having it make you rich, having it make you famous, having it, like if you actually get satisfaction every time you make the picture, then that's what happens. Even travel, you know, it's like you should be able to draw a 5-foot circle around wherever you are and find a good picture. Like they're there for sure. You know, I had a friend who came from overseas and was living in New York. He worked as an assistant. And he left New York because he said, man, I'm tired of it here. There's no pictures here. It's like, no pictures in New York? Are you kidding me? You're tripping over pictures. Stevie Wonder could shoot pictures in New York. It wouldn't be all that tough. You know, there's pictures everywhere. So I feel like your heart and your mind have to be open to seeing images. I think the biggest mistake photographers make who are looking to become full-time professionals is probably just that they think it's easy. You know, they look at what everybody else is doing, and it's the old joke about, you know, how many photographers take to screw in a light bulb? 500. It takes one to screw it in, 500 is 499 to say they could have done it better. I think people look through a magazine and they think, well, hell, I could have done that. Well, why are they hiring her? She shoots everything. I could do that, you know. And you don't know that you could in the end. And I think photographers have to be willing to work really hard. You know, it's like as a freelance person, I work all the same hours everybody else works, and then when they go home is when I start working again. That's when I'm editing my pictures. That's when I'm working on the computer. That's when I used to go to the lab. You know, so I have to do the same 9 to 5 everybody else is doing, because that's when I work with them, and then when they go home, I start again. You know, and even now, as a teacher, like I put all-nighters in probably once a week, maybe more. And certainly as a shooter, I put in all-nighters fairly regularly. And for most people, it's like that, they were done with that when they finished finals at college. You know, it's like all-nighters, no way, you know. And I just think in photography, it takes what it takes to get it right. And I think you have to feel like it's more fun than anything else you would be doing, because it's hard, you know. And I feel like for me, it was more fun than going to the movies. It was more fun than playing golf. It was more fun than, you know what I mean? Like, why would I do those things if I could take a picture? That was way more fun, you know. And when you're taking a picture, you're not watching something, you're creating something. So that's satisfying on a level that's very hard to even appreciate unless you're doing it. It's like giving birth to something fresh every time you push the button. It's pretty exciting.